Oh hi! Welcome to my channel Sadnessful, where I review films and TV shows and give my opinions that no one really cares about but will give anyway. For this video, I'll be reviewing the 2001 film 13 Ghosts, which is a remake of the 1960 version of the same name. I watched this movie a couple years ago and remember really liking it, but also remember it could use a little tweaking, so I decided to rewatch it for this channel. A couple quick warnings before I begin. This film has a lot of flashy editing to it, so if you're photosensitive, this might not be a good video to watch. Also, there might be some gory footage shown. I'll try my best not to because I don't want to get demonetized, but this is a horror film where a ghost who died violently murdered people violently, so you've been warned. But without further ado, let's get to 13 Ghosts. Spoilers abound. The film opens at a junkyard where we meet Cyrus, a ghost hunter. We also meet Dennis, who's a psychic and aids Cyrus on his hunts. Though it's pretty clear Dennis would rather be anywhere else but there.
It is my professional opinion. We should get the hell out of here.
There's also a bunch of random nobodies there who are just cannon fodder. You'll see. Cyrus is there to capture the 12th and final ghost he needs, but we don't really know what he needs them for, and we're not alone since Dennis doesn't really know either. While there, Dennis uses his abilities to locate the ghost, and he also touches Cyrus to try to figure out what he's up to. He gets a vision of spinning dials and levers and gears and a buttload of dollar bills, which doesn't really tell us anything. As they're prepping to capture the ghost, the nobodies find Damon and Kalina, who are there to try to stop Cyrus. Also, just side note, I'm probably going to butcher Kalina's name every single time. I tried really hard to just make sure I pronounce it, but no promises. They tell Cyrus and Dennis that what they're doing is wrong and that
these aren't animals you're capturing. They're human beings.
Cyrus and Dennis mock them. Kalina spits at Cyrus. And Damon mentions cryptically that
You'll never pull it off. Not without the right spells. That and a 13th ghost. 13th ghost?
How does Damon know about Cyrus's plan? Never really explained, but don't really think about it. Damon's gonna die soon anyways. Dennis didn't like the mention of a 13 ghost, and he tries to get Cyrus to explain, but he just walks away instead. Same, Cyrus, same. Eventually, the ghost they're hunting, by the way, he's called the Juggernaut, that'll make sense later, shows himself and is successfully captured, but not before he killed a bunch of the random nobodies and Damon. Told you. Oh, and Cyrus as well. Next, we go to a lovely scene of the Kritikos family. The kids are playing together, the mom and dad are laughing, and everyone's having a great time. Oh, there's a house fire and the mom dies? Well, wish you could just show us that rather than tell us. Anyways, because of this fire, Arthur and his two kids, Kathy and Bobby, are forced to live in a cramped apartment, and they barely have any money, though enough to hire an... Oh my god. Ew. Ugh. Anyways, because of this fire, Arthur and his two kids, Bobby and Kathy, are forced to live in a cramped apartment and they barely have any money, though enough money to hire a nanny named Maggie. While getting ready for the day, Cyrus's lawyer comes by and tells the family that Arthur's uncle, who's Cyrus, passed away and they've inherited his house. Yay, inheritance! The lawyer tells them they can check out the house that night, and so they do, and they find the most ugliest house I've ever seen, and all they can say is how beautiful and wonderful it is, and so, just full of crap. Oh, and also Dennis is there. He tells the lawyer that the power is out and he needs to go inside. How did Dennis know that people would be there to potentially let him in? Don't worry about it. I mean, yeah, I know he's a sidekick, but we saw his vision and it didn't indicate when people would be there, but it did show us a bunch of money, so that at least explains why he's there, because, his boss died before he could get paid. They go inside the house, which is still very much ugly, and see it's filled with glass walls with Latin phrases on them, as well as constant moving walls and doors. Everybody splits up, which they do a lot in this film, and the lawyer goes into the basement and puts on some glasses, which allows him to see the ghosts trapped down there, each in their own cell. And just to clarify, the characters have to wear these special glasses so they can see the ghost. Got it? While there, the lawyer finds Cyrus's bag of money. How did he know the money was there? Okay, this is getting old and we're only a third of the way through the film. Don't worry though, we're about to yada 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 through this. While the lawyer is down there, we see levers getting pulled, floors are spinning, and ghost cells are opening. We also see the outside walls move, sealing all the exits. While in the basement, the lawyer is absolutely murked, but I cannot show that scene for multiple reasons. If you've seen the film, you know why. Just know that the lawyer is dead now. One by one, the cells start to open, releasing the ghosts, and they go after the people inside the house. At one point, Bobby is lured downstairs by one of the ghosts, and there he sees the ghost of Cyrus. Yep, he's there too. And then Bobby just disappears. Don't know what to tell you. Arthur, Dennis, Kathy, and Maggie split up again to look for Bobby. As they're split up, Dennis has Maggie put on the glasses to see one of the ghosts herself, and she sees the ghost called the Hammer. Meanwhile, Kathy gets attacked by a ghost called the Jackal. Arthur goes to help her, and with the help of Kalina, who just comes out, Kalina? I'm butchering it. Arthur goes to help her, and with the help of Kalina, who just comes out of nowhere, they're all able to get away from the Jackal. Arthur asks Kalina how she got in, and she says she slipped in just before the house was sealed. She explains to Arthur that the house is a giant machine that's being powered by the ghost. Arthur looks back at Kathy and finds she has completely disappeared. Yep, just poof, vanished without sound. More ghost shenanigans happen, and Arthur, Dennis, Maggie, and Kalina find themselves inside the library. There, Kalina starts an argument with Dennis about how this is all his fault and how could he help Cyrus without knowing what he was doing. This argument leads to Kalina revealing to Arthur that the fourth ghost is his deceased wife. Arthur then promptly punches Dennis, as one does. We also get a ton of information right now, so stay with me. Okay, so a bunch of things just happened. My camera just decided to stop recording, so the ghosts are here with me. I also learned that this mic right here that I have plugged in, yeah, I didn't have the right settings on, so all the first audio you just heard was from my computer, not this freaking mic. So now it's coming from this mic, so my voice probably sounds better, and I'm not going to re-record what I already recorded, so sorry. But anyways, let's get back to the video now that I've learned how stupid I am. We're about to go over a huge exposition dump, so stay with me. We learn A, the house is a machine, which we already learned. B, the ghosts follow the Black Zodiac. Kalina goes over each of the ghosts individually, but I don't have enough time to do that, but just know that's where the Jackal, the Hammer, and the Juggernaut comes from. C, the specific ghost's energy are used to power the machine. D, the ghosts are released one by one so they can be drawn to the center in order to power the machine. E, the ghost's energy are used to open the Eye of Hell, which is basically an all-seeing eye that contains infinite amounts of knowledge. I'm just realizing now I feel like I should have just numbered them rather than letter them. F, that's why Cyrus is collecting all 12 ghosts. But hold on. As Dennis points out, and so does the title, there's 13 ghosts. This makes Kalina mention that the 13th ghost is a fail-safe plan. The 13th ghost is created by an act of pure love by sacrificing oneself by leaping into the eye. The things we do for love. Kalina says this will stop the machine, and Dennis realizes that Arthur is the 13th ghost. Kalina tells Arthur that in order to save his kids, he has to sacrifice himself. Who's home? Frick, I'm supposed to be by myself. Alright, so I just had to stop the camera a second time because my dad was making a lot of noise. This video is going super well. Don't click the camera. Maggie and Dennis obviously don't like this plan, but Arthur says he feels like he has no choice. Dennis pushes back, and Kalina says she has a bunch of explosives they could use, but that would probably kill them all. Dennis then, kind of out of nowhere, tells Arthur they could go out to get the kids together.
One last time, while there's still time, you and me.
Arthur then asks Kalina if she can stop the machine, and she nods yes, and just lets Arthur and Dennis go outside and potentially get killed before Arthur can sacrifice himself, which is a very important detail to keep in mind. While looking for the kids, Arthur and Dennis carry one of the doors with Latin written on it, which, by the way, the Latin phrases are basically binding spells or repel spells to keep the ghosts away. Arthur and Dennis see the hammer coming, and Dennis pointlessly sacrifices himself to save Arthur. Dude, you couldn't have ran first? I mean, sure, the Juggernaut also shows up, but you couldn't have at least tried to run first? And what was the point of bringing the door if you weren't going to use it? Anyway, it's just a pointless sacrifice and Dennis gets murked. Meanwhile, Kalina and Maggie go to where I guess the bar in the machine is. I don't know what else to call it. Maggie sees the ghost of Cyrus and is then knocked out by Kalina, which, surprise, has been working with Cyrus the whole time and is madly in love with him, which doesn't make any sense given all her actions. She just lets Arthur willingly go throughout the house and potentially get killed before he can sacrifice himself, which, spoiler alert, is actually what sets off the machine, not stop it. Also, her character takes a total nosedive after this.
Why? Why are you so mad at me? I did everything you asked me to do.
She also just casually drops that she was the one that killed Damon. Okay, whatever. Oh, and Cyrus is alive. He just faked his death. Cyrus tells Kalina they need to use the children to lure in Arthur, which Kalina fights back on because they're just kids. Which, why? You've already done a bunch of other horrible stuff like murder. Why is that drawing the line? And wasn't that the plan already? You tell Arthur that he needs to sacrifice himself to save his kids. You are already using them. Oh, and then Cyrus just murks Kalina. Because yeah. Arthur eventually finds where the eye is and sees his children trapped in the middle. He puts on the glasses and sees all 12 ghosts have been drawn there. He then sees Cyrus just randomly standing there. He takes off his glasses, realizing that Cyrus is not a ghost. The two fight, and Cyrus does the classic evil monologue of revealing his true plans and reveals that the 13th ghost actually sets off the machine, not stop it. We then hear a bunch of weird record scratching noises and see Maggie messing with dials and switches, which is apparently enough to destroy the entire machine. She survives that, by the way. As the machine is falling apart, the ghosts are released and murk Cyrus. Ghost Dennis then appears and tells Arthur,
Trust me, Arthur. It's not over yet. You can finish this. You still have the power in you. It's just a matter of how you use it. Go to your kids, they need you.
Which, what? Why is that so cryptic and just utterly pointless? Literally all Arthur does is time his jump just right so that he doesn't get sliced. The house then explodes all around them and all three are fine, which means his kids would have been fine whether or not he jumped to them, which means that the only thing that accomplished was saving himself, not his kids. You could have just told him that, Dennis. A third time, my camera stopped recording. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, that was the end of the film. Okay. Oh. Don't forget to do that. All right, now I go into what I liked about the film. Okay, we are back. The camera stopped recording again, and I finally realized it's because the camera is overheating because it is an abnormally hot day today, which is just great. So it took me way too long to figure out that the camera was just overheating, especially for someone who has a master's in film. But I figured it out. It's all better now. It's later in the day. The lighting's all completely off, but I have lunch and now I'm full and now we can get back to wherever the heck we were. Where were we? I don't even know. Okay. We got the likes. The likes. Okay, what? What? There was a wasp that just went by. On to the likes. By far, the best part of the film are the ghosts themselves, which is great because that's literally the title of the film. The ghosts are each unique. The character designs are really incredible. They each design specifically different, and you can tell that they each have their own backstory, which I think is really cool. The practical effects on them are just incredible, and they just really carry the film, especially because some of the story points are lackluster, but the ghosts absolutely carry it. I also think the setting is really cool. The house is ugly, don't get me wrong, but it's a unique setting. It's not your typical Victorian mansion house that you typically see in most horror films or most paranormal films. So I do really appreciate that. And the constant moving walls and doors just make you feel trapped. So I thought that was a really cool element of the story. To me, the best character is Arthur. Now, the ghosts are definitely the best characters, but in terms of one that actually has speaking roles, it's Arthur. I like him because he has clear motivation. Everything he does makes sense, and his character is pretty consistent all the way throughout. Like, everything he does is smart, and I like smart characters. Well, smart given what he knows. On to the dislikes, and there's a lot, so buckle up. To me, the worst character is Kalina. Up till her 180, I actually really did like her. Is it a cool plot twist? Sure, but her 180 just comes out of nowhere, and everything she does up to that point just doesn't add up. It feels like they wrote two different characters. The Kalina before we realized she's Osiris, and the Kalina after, and they just don't match up. If she was truly in on everything, so many of the actions she does doesn't make sense. For instance, it's Dennis that brings up the 13th ghost, which is a very integral part of the plan that she doesn't bring up. You would think she would bring it up and try to convince Arthur that, hey, you need to jump in there to save your kids, when in actuality, it doesn't save them. But no, she doesn't bring that up. I also think Dennis deciding to go out with Arthur to help the kids comes out of nowhere, and his sacrifice is utterly pointless. Dennis is a coward. Every time he's in a situation with ghosts, he wants to escape, and so it's very bizarre that seemingly out of nowhere he decides, oh, I want to help these kids, and then just lets himself die. It just doesn't seem consistent with his character that he would do that. Another thing that really bothers me is Maggie destroying the machine so easily. You have this giant machine that's literally a portal to hell, essentially, and she just does some switches and it explodes. What? The kids disappearing are also very annoying because we see that Cyrus is not a ghost, actually, and it's clear that Cyrus is the one that takes Bobby, and yet Bobby just vanishes, and none of the other ghosts take anybody else, so clearly it's not a ghost power. It just didn't make sense, especially with Kathy just disappearing and not making a sound and not warning Kalina and Arthur. Why would she not do that? Lastly, there's a bunch of exposition dumps, which is kind of bizarre because there's so many things that aren't explained that just conveniently happen. What I want to do now is take into account everything I don't like and change the film and try to correct them all. The one thing I would like to change, but I don't realistically think I could, is adding in the ghosts more and developing the ghosts more. The film is only an hour and a half long, which is just not a long enough runtime to give each ghost a proper backstory. I actually think this film would be better as a TV show, so you did have time to develop the ghost, but it's not a TV show, and I want to work in the confines of an hour and a half film. You could also just restructure the whole film and make the ghosts the center characters, but I again want to work in the confines of what's already there and make Arthur the main character, since that's what he is. There is a cool 13-minute 13-minute video of each of the ghosts' backstory. I'll link it in the description below. Maybe it could have been added into the film. Maybe in the very beginning, they could go over each ghost, and when they get to the 12th ghost, it could transition into talking about him being the last ghost to capture, and then we cut to the junkyard scene. The problem with that is that it's another exposition dump, and the film already has a lot of those. So let's go over what I want to fix. I want to fix Kalina's character and also make Dennis' sacrifice more meaningful, and also give a better reason for why Dennis is there when everything goes down. I also want to give a better reason for how the machine is destroyed, and a better reason for how the kids disappear. I also want to trim the expo dumps, but also give them justification for being there by making them a part of a bigger plan, because admittedly, they are necessary. And the way I'm going to do this is by going over the film again and adding in what I changed. Anything I don't talk about is just going to stay the same. I have my notes right here about what I'm going to change. Let's do this. We're still going to start with the junkyard scene, but this time Cyrus intentionally touches Dennis, so Dennis has the vision of Cyrus's house and the date October 13. I just chose a random date, but the point is this is the date that Cyrus is going to try to run a machine. This will make Dennis curious and show up at the house that day, which explains why he's there when everything goes down rather than just being a coincidence. Cyrus wants him there because he'll be bait for the ghost since Dennis helped trap them. The ghost will be more likely to go after him than Arthur and his family, which Cyrus needs to lie for his plan. Also, Dennis will likely get killed there, tying up any loose ends. Kalina shows up at the junkyard by herself. Damon being there is just kind of pointless, so I'm cutting him. And she gets caught, so Dennis clearly sees her and will be more likely to trust her when she shows up at the house since he saw her trying to help the ghost. Remember, she's in on everything, so everything she does has to be clearly planned. And just to clarify, there's no mention of a 13 ghost in this scene, and we don't know that Kalina is evil yet. Fast forwarding a bit, Dennis shows up at the house during the date he saw in his vision. Shit goes down like it happens in the film, and the ghosts are out, but primarily go after Dennis, who doesn't realize he's bait. Kalina shows up just in time to save Kathy and Arthur. She pulls Arthur aside and expo dumps, but she intentionally does this so Kathy can be taken without Arthur noticing. More ghost shenanigans ensue. Back to the library scene. Instead of starting an argument with Dennis, Kalina explains everything first, including the 4th ghost. Without being prompted by Dennis, important, Kalina tells Arthur that the only way to stop the machine is if he becomes the 13th ghost by sacrificing himself. Dennis tries to convince Arthur not to do this, which prompts Kalina to try to put a wedge between them by revealing that not only did Dennis help capture the ghost, but also he was the one who found and chose the ghost Cyrus needed. Then Arthur punches Dennis, as one does, saying how could he? Dennis tries to defend himself, but Kalina joins in, trying to continue adding a wedge between them, saying it's all his fault, unintentionally guilt-tripping Dennis even more. And feeling guilty, Dennis attempts to make amends by telling Arthur they could find the kids while Maggie and Kalina attempt to destroy the machine. He comes up with this plan so that no one has to die, and Arthur likes this new plan. I'm having Dennis come up with the plan of destroying the machine instead of Kalina because she needs the machine to go off because she's in on everything. Kalina tries to push back saying it won't work, but Dennis shoots her down. With no real other choice, Kalina reluctantly agrees and reluctantly lets them go off. She notices she tries to push back more and might become suspicious, so she just has no choice but to let them go. Cut to when Dennis dies. Arthur and Dennis get cornered by the hammer and the Juggernaut at the same time. Dennis quickly realizes they're trapped. He traps Arthur in the corner with the glass as they both can't fit. Dennis tells Arthur he's sorry and to save his kids, then Dennis is killed. Back to the body of the machine. After Kalina knocks out Maggie, instead of doing whatever this was, we get flashbacks of Kalina and Cyrus secretly manipulating everything. We see them discuss luring in Dennis. We see her get caught at the junkyard so Dennis will trust her. We see her watching Arthur and Kathy, only revealing herself when it was necessary. We see her distract Arthur as Cyrus takes Kathy, chloroforming her so she doesn't make a sound, which chloroform doesn't actually work that quickly, but movie logic. After the flashback, she tells Cyrus he needs to keep an eye on Arthur and make sure he goes to the eye, and she'll start drawing in the ghosts now that they're all released. I'm essentially making Cyrus and Kalina equals. They're both the bad guys, both in on everything, instead of this weird begging dynamic that's just gross and comes out of nowhere. Yada yada. While Cyrus and Arthur are fighting, Ghost Dennis shows up where Maggie and Kalina are. He sees Maggie passed out and Kalina controlling the machine and drawing device. He puts 2 and 2 together and confronts Kalina. Kalina, with the glasses on, tells Dennis he's too late and there's nothing he can do. However, Kalina doesn't realize he's a ghost. Dennis disappears behind her, grabs her, and throws her into the machine, destroying it. He then shakes Maggie awake and tells her where she can go to hide/escape from the incoming explosion. Dennis then goes to Arthur and tells him to get to his kids while he'll be safe from the explosion, which is way more helpful than just, oh, it's not over yet, which is cryptic and pointless since it very much was over. And that's the end. That's what I changed. I tried to fix as much as I could while still having a coherent storyline that doesn't stray too far from the original. But let me know what you think below in the comments. I'd love to hear what you thought of my suggestions. And until the next video, bye!